Hi, guys. My name is Sam, and today I'm going to talk about Denali National Park in Alaska. This park is incredibly unique because it combines huge wilderness areas, lots of wildlife, and the tallest mountain in North America. This presentation will go through the park's location, history, geology, plant and animal life, climate, and the challenges it faces today. Denali National Park is located in south central Alaska and covers more than 6 million acres, which is bigger than the entire state of New Hampshire. This park sits within the Alaska Range, which is a 600-mile long mountain chain that stretches across the state. The nearest town to the national park is Healy, which sits just outside the park entrance. And most visitors stay there or in Denali Park area before going in. Because the area is so remote, most of the park is untouched, which I think make it so appealing. There are hardly any buildings and only one main road that goes through the park that isn't even really accessible most of the year. At the center of all of it is Denali, the highest mountain in North America at over 20,000 feet. The mountain was known for a long time as Mount McKinley, but its native name, Denali, means the high one. That name is much older, hundreds of years older actually, than the name McKinley. Denali rises super fast from the lowlands around it, which make it one of the biggest vertical rises of any mountain on Earth. Even if Everest is technically taller from sea level, Denali looks taller and more dramatic because it rises so steeply and there's not like other mountains around it. Denali and the rest of the Alaska Range formed because of two tectonic plates. The Alaska Plate and the Pacific Plate pushed against each other. This collision caused massive uplift, meaning the land was pushed upward to form the mountains. Denali is made mostly of igneous and metamorphic rock, which means the rock has been heated, compressed, and changed over millions of years. A really important feature is the Denali Fault, which is a major strike slip fault. It actually produced a huge earthquake in 2002, a magnitude 7.9 earthquake that ruptured hundreds of miles across Alaska. Glaciers also helped shape the park. Over thousands of years, glaciers carved the steep valleys, smoothed out rock surfaces, and created the rugged look that the park is known for today. And I think that this picture shows some of that rugged landscape. The park was first established on February 26, 1917, and at the time it was called Mount McKinley National Park. It wasn't created to protect the mountain itself at first, it was created to protect wildlife, specifically Dall sheep, because they were being overhunted at the time. But then in 1980, the park was expanded and officially renamed Denali National Park and Preserve. The name change recognized the older traditional native name, which people in Alaska had already been using for a super long time to refer to the landscape in the mountain, anyways. Long before it became a national park, the region was home to Alaska Native people. Archaeologists haven't found a ton of sites, mostly because I think the weather is so harsh and the landscape makes things hard to preserve and study. But the sites that they have found show that people lived and traveled through this area for at least 1,000 to 1,500 years ago. The early groups depended heavily on the land and moved seasonally and followed animals and specifically caribou and sheep around to survive. Archaeological research in the park has uncovered stone tools and hunting tools, especially along major river valleys. These tools help show us that early people used the area as seasonal hunting camps. And most of the archaeological sites are located in places that stayed above big glaciers during the last ice age, which means that people it means that the people could actually live and travel there while other areas were still covered in ice. And even though a few sites have been found, they show a pretty long pattern of human use and human relationship with the land itself. Many Alaska Native groups consider Denali and the surrounding land spiritually important. The mountain is seen as a symbol of strength, endurance, and survival to many. People traditionally hunted caribou and gathered what they needed from the land. And even today, Native communities in the region still have deep cultural ties to the area and continue to be involved in protecting it. And I think it's important that we remember the people that lived in the region long before it was a national park and continue to give them access and power and decision making when it comes to conservation and like decisions moving forward about the national park. Denali Park has pretty wild plant life when you think about how cold it is. Because the climate is so extreme, most plants have to grow very low to the ground. They've adapted to survive to freezing temperatures and strong winds and super short summers. The park has tundra vegetation, mosses, algae, wild berries, and wildflowers that bloom just actually for a few weeks in the summer, which is shown in this picture. Lower elevation lower elevation areas in the park have black spruce forests, which grow more slowly because the soil is frozen most of the year. And because the plants are kind of different than like warmer weather plants, they're more susceptible to damage from climate change or visitors, which I think is important to acknowledge when you're thinking about visiting. Denali is famous for its wildlife. Large mammals, including grizzly bears, wolves, moose, caribou, and Dall sheep, all live there. The animals really are the reason that the park was created in the first place to protect them. In the summer, tons of birds also migrate to the park, including songbirds and raptors. The mix of mountains and tundra and river valleys give all of the wildlife lots of space to spread out, which is why there is such an abundance and why the animals are so healthy. And that's really like why a lot of people visit the park is for a chance to see these animals in their natural environments. Denali has a subarctic climate, so winters here are long and dark and extremely cold, with temperatures well below zero. Summers are short, but surprisingly warm for Alaska, with average temperatures around 60 degrees. The best time to visit is mid June through August. During these months, the park road is open, the weather is the best, and the wildlife is more active. Even in the summer, though, storms can roll in pretty quickly, and snow really can fall any month of the year. So the weather is super unpredictable, which adds to like the wild, kind of untouched feel the park has. One of the biggest concerns in Denali today is climate change. Temperatures in Alaska are rising faster than in many other parts of the world, and that affects everything in the park. Glaciers are melting, and permafrost, which is permanently frozen ground, is also starting to thaw, which is bad because when it thaws, it can cause the ground to become unstable, which can lead to rock slides, erosion, damage to the trails, the habitats, and even the road, the park road. Another issue is visitor impact. With more people visiting every year, the park has to manage how visitors interact with wildlife and plant life and make sure that people stay on designated paths and treat the land with respect. Recent studies show that rock slides in the park are increasing because of melting permafrost. But despite this, the park is still super popular. In 2023, the park recorded one of its highest visitor counts since before the pandemic. And a fun fact is that the park only has one 92-mile road, which means almost the entire place is untouched and like inaccessible. And most of the road you can't drive by yourself. You have to go on like a bus, which I also think is pretty cool. This is my works cited, which concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.